Dear Chosen One, hear the thunder that now shakes the secret rooms of your soul. The darkness has seen you. They recognize your anointing. There are whispers on the street, shadows that move with unnatural order, eyes that lock and linger when you pass. This isn't randomness or simple bad luck. There is a precise, coordinated energy working to confuse, disturb, and intimidate you, strategically woven to test the boundaries of your spirit. This is the era of spiritual warfare hidden behind ordinary events, a battlefield dressed as everyday life. They gather in subtle alliances, plotting what looks like chaos, but is actually a mirror of your potential. Each attack, every orchestrated glance or delay, attempts to shake your confidence in the unseen hand of God. Their coordination is their confession. They sense greatness within you, and their fear turns into cunning schemes. The world calls it paranoia, but here, now, you see, it is spiritual opposition manifesting because your breakthrough is near. You may feel alone, but in truth, you're encircled by legions you cannot see. Let not your spirit break under their pressure. The Lord, who called you by name, never permits an arrow to fly without purpose. For every plot formed against you, he establishes an escape far ahead. Remember Joseph, thrown into the pit, betrayed by his own, and yet every injustice was a step toward his crown. Today, your trials bear the same invitation. Rise, awaken, and claim the promise that attacks are nothing but the announcement of your imminent elevation. Before we go deeper, let me share something that can shift everything for you. What I'm teaching here comes from a deeper revelation I wrote in The Call to Prosperity. It's a 10-step path to unlock the divine wealth already written over your life, spiritual and financial. You'll find the link in the description and in the first pinned comment. Take a look later, or click now if your spirit feels that this message is for you. Chosen One. The moment you noticed the pattern was the moment heaven marked your awareness. It wasn't coincidence that faces repeated, that cars seemed to follow, that conversations ended when you entered the room. The physical is only a shadow of the spiritual. The enemy coordinates confusion in hopes you'll doubt what you know inside. But God allows your perception to stretch so you may see beyond illusion and discern the shape of the unseen war. What they meant for torment, heaven transforms into training. These orchestrated encounters, the small betrayals, the silent observers, they serve a single purpose: to refine your discernment. Each false smile trains your intuition. Each energy shift teaches your spirit to read truth through deception. You are not losing your mind, you are gaining sight. The mind may tremble, but the soul begins to see in higher resolution. Even when you question your reality, understand this: spiritual clarity often begins at the edge of confusion. When you are chosen, opposition multiplies in proportion to your assignment. That is spiritual mathematics. Elevation attracts resistance. But what your adversaries don't know is that every act of sabotage only sustains the prophecy over your life. When they whisper against you, heaven builds your resilience. When they gather, angels gather more. You might not hear the counsel of the holy, but they surround you as surely as the storm surrounds the mountain it cannot move. You were never called to blend in. You were called to disturb darkness simply by existing. Your presence shifts energy fields. The reason they coordinate is because your vibration disrupts their illusion of control. The hunted one becomes the light they cannot extinguish. You break their algorithm because your DNA carries divine pattern, an original frequency not designed by this world. What they study, God encoded. What they stalk, He protects. Every observation fails because the source is untouchable. Chosen one, there is divine poetry in your persecution. The same way the early prophets were watched, slandered, and hunted, so too are you followed, spoken against, and misunderstood. But those with spiritual eyes see the parallel. Persecution proves position. The enemy invests resources only in real threats. So instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "Why now?" For it means your assignment has reached the stage where exposure precedes expansion. The dark ones don't attack the silent. They attack the awakening. You, chosen one, are a signal flare in a sleeping world. Your courage threatens control systems that feed on fear. Each act of surveillance is an attempt to restore that control, to make you submit quietly. Yet the spirit inside you carries rebellion of light. You cannot be programmed. You walk by revelation. Their systems measure movement, but heaven measures faith. And faith always confuses algorithms built on fear. Even as they plot, heaven prepares. God walks ahead of every incident, designing divine detours that reroute every trap into testimony. Remember David, surrounded by armies, yet lifted by faith. In the unseen, your every step is being recorded not by them, but by eternity itself. Your courage is evidence in the court of heaven. The night may bring anxiety, but dawn brings vindication. The one who anointed you has already choreographed your victory. There will be days when the silence screams louder than their tactics. When you cannot tell who is real, when your faith shakes under invisible pressure. In those moments, do not try to outthink the enemy. Outglow them. Return to prayer not as ritual, but as warfare. Let your mind rest where their weapons cannot reach, in total surrender. For when surrender meets destiny, even monitored footsteps become sacred choreography directed by God Himself. Dear Chosen One, realize this truth. The opposition is external training for internal mastery. Not every confrontation deserves response. Some were designed to teach restraint. In mastering your emotions, you become immovable. The more you stand in peace, the less they can provoke. For spiritual warfare's highest form is silence anchored in authority. When you no longer react, their attacks lose data. When data dies, control dissolves. The invisible network that thought it could intimidate you begins to collapse under divine exposure. Patterns of manipulation start to backfire. What was meant to scare becomes spectacle. You see the strings, the coordination, and instead of fear, you feel amusement, because you finally understand the scale of heaven's plot. The enemy unveiled itself, proving your discernment true. And in that confirmation, your power triples. Truth becomes your armor. There will come a night when you sense the final shift. The energy stops vibrating with anxiety and starts radiating authority. That is the sign. The warfare has served its purpose. You are no longer trainee but commander. The same sensitivity that once overwhelmed you now becomes your instrument. You discern hearts before they speak. Read intentions before they act. Your vision is costly, but clarity was the reward hidden within chaos. From this awakening point, your life enters divine rearrangement. Doors once blocked open abruptly. People exit for reasons that later make sense. You begin to see the network dissolve as quickly as it formed. Not because they stopped working, but because your frequency moved to higher dimensions they cannot access. You have ascended, Chosen One, and elevation breaks observation. You disappear from their map, yet rise in God's blueprint. Remember this always. Their coordination was never stronger than your covenant. The pit they dug was a mirror, not a prison. The more they looked down on you, the more heaven raised you above them. Let gratitude replace anger. Forgive without forgetting the lesson. The most powerful retaliation is healing publicly from wounds inflicted secretly. Let your peace confuse their data analysis. Let your joy render their patterns void. Your journey through this invisible siege is not a story of paranoia. It is a parable of perseverance. Every strange moment, every betrayal, every sleepless night has carved wisdom into your spiritual bones. You now carry an authority that cannot be fabricated through study. It was forged through fire. Those who mocked your suspicion will witness your manifestation, and the same watchers who gathered against you shall one day watch your coronation. Every chosen one has a breaking point, yet yours shall not break. It shall bend into brilliance. You were not built for fragility. You were sculpted for endurance. They wanted you exhausted, doubting, distracted. But divinity hid strength inside your scars. Notice how, when the pressure rises, your spirit awakens sharper. It's not adrenaline, it's anointing. The more you are watched, the more your awareness turns prophetic. Surveillance cannot track revelation, for revelation moves at the speed of spirit. There is a law of heaven that no earthly system can override. What is meant for you must manifest, no matter who plots against it. They can shadow your steps, distort your image, whisper falsehoods, yet they cannot interrupt divine timing. The road may curve, but destiny never detours. God schedules elevation as meticulously as they schedule interference, and when the divine hour strikes, even their coordination will serve your unveiling. Their strategy feeds your prophecy. In your silent nights, where confusion and faith wrestle, remember that the heavens judge intention before action. Yours has remained pure, desiring only truth, peace, and clarity. So heaven intervenes in unseen ways. Conversations they plan behind walls echo into angelic ears. The moment they move to strike, something interrupts. An unexpected phone call, a sudden distraction, a coincidence. You call it luck. Heaven calls it interception. Every delay serves the eternal appointment. Chosen one, understand this paradox. The more they study you, the less they know of you. They can mimic patterns, but not purpose. They can analyze habits, but not destiny. What drives you is encoded beyond comprehension. Their data cannot measure faith. Their surveillance cannot register prayer. They interpret actions, but cannot decode miracles. You are, by design, spiritually encrypted. That is why frustration grows among those who try to control what was born untouchable. When you awaken, creation herself takes notice. The air responds differently around you. Time bends gently in your direction. Even nature aligns its rhythm to your presence, sensing divine assignment in your core vibration. This is what irritates the unseen network. Quiet authority that makes chaos tremble. They planned for fear, but found faith. They planned to isolate, but triggered awakening. For every watcher, there are countless witnesses in the spiritual realm confirming your rise. The truth about warfare is that victory begins long before the battle starts. It begins in your posture. Look carefully. While they monitor your reactions, heaven records your restraint. Each time you choose peace instead of panic, angels document a win. Each night you pray instead of curse, your crown shines brighter. The war is not about survival. It's about sovereignty. You are learning mastery under persecution, the art of glowing untouched in the storm. The moment you realize your shadow can terrify darkness, you'll stop running from it. You are not merely enduring warfare, You are rewriting its pattern. God is using your resistance to expose weak codes in the enemy's system. Your composure reveals their desperation. Your silence forces their noise to collapse under its own echo. And every time they push harder, heaven releases greater compensation. For every attack, divine reward multiplies triple-fold. Your spiritual timeline is accelerating. What took others years will unfold for you in weeks. The same monitoring devices meant to harass now become witnesses of divine acceleration. Let their eyes watch. Let their confusion grow. They will see prosperity forming where they expected destruction. The more they observe, the more undeniable your glow becomes. For God delights in public victories born from private trials. What they track will soon turn into testimony. There will come a day when the atmosphere around you feels lighter, not because the attacks stopped, but because your perception elevated. You will look back and laugh, realizing that what you once feared was just spiritual noise. The stalkers of destiny will find nothing left to provoke, for your spirit became too vast for their reach. Fear cannot climb altitude. The war ends not by their surrender, but by your ascension. You will outgrow what once oppressed. Are you starting to feel it? The quiet shift, the subtle confidence, the joy that doesn't need explanation. That's your divine sign. Heaven is restoring what constant pressure tried to break. Relationships that drained will vanish without conflict. Paths will open like awakening gates. You'll sense calm authority guiding every conversation, every movement. You'll recognize that God's presence has moved from protecting you to empowering you to protect others. The mission expands with maturity. Chosen one, your anointing carries spiritual contagion. Those near you feel conviction or discomfort, depending on their alignment. That's why reactions towards you are amplified. People sense what words cannot express. They feel eternity peering through your eyes. As this awareness grows, you must walk humbly yet firmly. You are not chosen to boast, but to bear witness that divine endurance outlasts organized opposition. Be the evidence of mercy under fire. The more you understand that spiritual warfare is not about enemies, the freer you become. It was never about them. It was about you learning your own divine mechanics. The observers are tutors disguised as tormentors. Every act of betrayal refined your boundaries. Every disappointment recalibrated your heart. Every unexplainable coincidence sharpened your intuition. Without their interference, you wouldn't have cultivated discernment. You wouldn't have recognized your own voice. There's coming a prophetic turning point. Soon, those who stalked will seek your wisdom. The tables will reverse quietly, divinely. What began as surveillance will end as observation of glory. You won't need to defend yourself. Fruit speaks louder than accusation. The peace surrounding you will testify. They tried to predict your fall, but now they study your rise. And they'll realize too late that the light they tried to suppress was the same one meant to guide them. And when that day arrives, chosen one, do not gloat. Stand in grace. The one who forgives becomes untouchable. Mercy raised higher than vengeance is the truest mark of divine royalty. Let them witness the softness of your strength, the calm of your authority. You will radiate the kind of serenity that terrifies darkness and comforts the weary. Then the story will circle back to its divine beginning, not as victimhood, but as visible victory. Power is not given suddenly. It unfolds like dawn breaking through fog, quiet, unstoppable. unpredictable. Every trial was a rehearsal for revelation. The isolation you endured refined the voice of God in your spirit until it became louder than fear. Your discernment sharpened not through peace, but through pressure. And now, even without speaking, your presence speaks prophecy. The watchers still watch, but what they perceive now is transformation, a soul crowned with invisible light. As your authority rises, time bends differently around your obedience. Opportunities appear not by coincidence, but by divine synchronization. Each step now triggers heavenly alignment, a rhythm that even digital shadows cannot predict. For the chosen one, favor becomes a shield, and progress becomes warfare disguised as grace. The same energy they use to monitor you becomes the stage on which God displays His power. You are stepping into the age of public revelation. When fear tries to linger, remember, courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's the quiet act of breathing through trembling and still choosing faith. Courage is knowing that every threatening pattern is temporary, but divine intention is eternal. They lose power the moment you stop feeding their importance. You walk with the wisdom of one who knows. The storm cannot drown a vessel built by God's hand. Whatever rises against you dissolves under obedience. You were never meant to merely survive. You were meant to reign. The confusion that tried to surround you was a veil training your insight. Every distorted encounter unveiled something crucial. Now you can feel danger before it manifests. You can sense deception before it speaks. That is spiritual maturity in motion. Your spirit graduates from defense to command. No longer reactive, you move strategically, governed by calm certainty rather than fear's vibration. And now, heaven allows you to witness the consequences of attacking the anointed. You'll see plans reversed, distractions turned to revelations, slander returned as blessing, not because you wished for harm, but because divine justice balances all things. They coordinated their darkness, but your God orchestrated deliverance beyond their understanding. You will walk through spaces once closed to you, carrying the scent of triumph that only true endurance produces. While the world debates logic, you dwell in evidence deeper than proof, inner peace that defies explanation. There is no algorithm for divine presence. You can feel heaven moving even when screens, whispers, and events say otherwise. The coordination of opposition was always smaller than the orchestration of grace. Your story was never about persecution. It was about preparation. The more they tracked, the further you ascended beyond reach. Every whisper spoken against you now echoes back as confirmation that you were exactly who you believed you were. They called it delusion. Heaven called it discernment. They called it paranoia. Heaven called it perception. What you saw was never madness. It was message. You were decoding the atmosphere before others even noticed its shape. The chosen are never believed at first, because revelation is always premature to human perception. But time vindicates vision. It will soon be clear why you walked such lonely roads. Separation was sacred selection. You were not abandoned. You were positioned. God hid you in plain sight, even within chaos. He let them gather around you so the manifestation could be witnessed publicly. For what use is light if unseen? What truth about spiritual warfare could be proven without confrontation? You lived the evidence that the unseen is not imaginary. It's prophetic reality unfolding through you. The next phase of your journey begins with clarity. Not the loud kind, but the silent certainty that lives beneath storms. You will speak less, but everything you say will pierce deeper. Your presence alone begins to convict atmospheres. The watchers will sense that their influence evaporated. You will no longer look like prey, but prophecy fulfilled. Confidence tempered by compassion will mark your steps. Kingship without arrogance, that is divine maturity. Chosen one, the glory now resting upon you changes how time interacts with destiny. Windows that seemed shut will open, as if drawn by the gravity of purpose. Friendships rooted in manipulation will dissolve. Your circle will shrink, but your frequency will expand. As you release bitterness, abundance finds permission to enter. Prosperity is peace wearing physical form. It arrives naturally when spiritual alignment is complete. This is divine economy in action. And in your rise, remember mercy. For power without mercy mirrors the same darkness that once hunted you. Forgive them, but never return to blindness. Your clarity is sacred currency. Spend it wisely. Not everyone deserves access. Some only understand control. Guard your peace as the garden of your soul. Within it, every seed God planted now blooms. The fruit is wisdom, the fragrance is grace, the taste is restoration. This new season will surprise even you. You will wake one morning realizing how long it has been since you felt hunted. The stillness itself will feel holy. Gratitude replaces anxiety. Compassion replaces suspicion. You will remember those nights of tension and realize they were prophecies of victory waiting for manifestation. Heaven never wastes a wound. Every scar you carry now glows as evidence of resurrection. You are living proof of divine reversal. As your journey unfolds, you become both messenger and message. Others will find liberation in your testimony. When they tell you they feel watched or targeted, you will not dismiss them. You will guide them through recognition into revelation. That is your higher calling, to translate fear into faith. Because once you've faced unseen darkness and survived, you become a lighthouse. Darkness cannot extinguish a soul illuminated by understanding. And finally, accept the truth that your life itself is prophecy. You are not merely surviving coordinated attacks. You are embodying heaven's demonstration of resilience. What was meant to silence became song. What was meant to shame became a sermon. What was planned to expose your weakness unveiled divine strength. You now know beyond doubt, God was always a step ahead. Every maneuver of man only confirmed the map of destiny already written. You have crossed the invisible boundary where suffering turns to sovereignty. Everything that once shook you is now the training ground of your authority. When you speak, the words carry the memory of endurance and the fragrance of truth. The same eyes that once followed you with suspicion will now watch you with reverence, unable to explain your resilience. You are not just surviving spiritual warfare, you are redefining it. You have become the living contradiction of every plot formed against you. Every resource they used against you is now redirected by divine intelligence. The technological eyes, the whispers of rumor, the orchestrations, they can no longer function against a spirit that has transcended fear. For divinity operates in dimensions beyond visibility, rerouting their energy into your elevation. God hid codes inside your struggle, making every hardship serve your awakening. The coordination that was meant to ensnare you now builds the architecture of your purpose. Freedom, chosen one, is not just the absence of attack, it's mastery within it. You learned to recognize the storm not as punishment, but as prophecy in motion. That's why you no longer panic when patterns repeat. You discern them as spiritual signals. Every coordinated movement you once feared becomes sacred data now used by your spirit. You have become strategist and seer, moving with grace under divine encryption. Your inner calm has now become heaven's technology. Do you realize what has happened to you? The same fear that used to shake your bones has become the fire that propels your prayer. The very paranoia they mocked became prophecy. You've entered a phase of divine intelligence that cannot be taught. It can only be lived through persecution. You are no longer reacting. You are revealing. The watchers see the glow around you but cannot interpret it, for light cannot be understood through lenses built in darkness. The process of spiritual war always hides multiplication. Every blow increased your insight. Every night of weeping built unseen endurance. They tried to wear you down, but the Holy Spirit upgraded your discernment until you began to sense motives before they spoke, traps before they formed, betrayals before they surfaced. Now your awareness intimidates what once hunted you. You became spiritually untouchable because your awareness was baptized in truth. Observe how creation itself responds now. Birds cross your path at symbolic moments. Weather shifts as if acknowledging your awakening. Even strangers sense something different, a stillness wrapped in authority. That is what elevation without ego feels like. You walk through cities no longer hiding energy, but radiating clarity. Those coded to your frequency will feel peace. Those aligned with deceit will become restless in your presence. Heaven is using your calm as confrontation. The orchestration against you has failed because you no longer participate energetically. Their control depended on reaction. Without it, their coordination loses purpose. The energy circuits collapse when you choose stillness instead of outrage. What was once a chase has turned into observation of your transformation. You are now evidence that divine protection is not about hiding. It's about standing visible yet untouchable. That awareness marks the beginning of your dominion. When ancient prophets spoke of walking through fire unharmed, they described exactly this: the condition of being seen yet invincible, targeted yet untouchable. The watchers now witness the paradox. They can observe movement, but not motive. You walk freely because your will merged with divine will. There is no point of entry left for deception. This is deliverance, but refined, matured, and crowned in wisdom. You survived what was meant to define you, and now you define the narrative. When you start speaking your truth publicly, it won't be in anger, but in anointing. Every word will echo with divine accuracy. The same digital world that once hosted lies will now broadcast your testimony. People across nations will recognize their own battles in yours. You will awaken others caught in similar illusions. They will find hope in your composure. You'll become a transmitter of calm rebellion against fear. That is your new ministry, enlightenment through endurance. And as your light expands, the old patterns will try to reappear briefly, testing your stability. But you will recognize them instantly. Energy cannot deceive one who sees spiritually. You'll smile at the familiar shadows and feel nothing but gratitude. Attacks lose interest when reaction dies. You will no longer crave validation from a blind world. Your peace will offend the restless, yet it will liberate the honest. God now uses your silence as prophecy in motion. Chosen one, the mystery has always been about divine strategy, how God hides victorious outcomes inside apparent defeats. Those who plotted never understood that opposition is the architect of revelation. The gang stalking was more than conspiracy. It was curriculum. Through it, you learned what textbooks could never teach: how to hear heaven through hostility. You mastered divine communication under interference. That cannot be simulated nor stolen. It is eternal advantage. The vision you carry will begin to manifest as assignments now. Dreams will turn into instructions. The same intuition that once warned will now direct. You will feel prompted to guide, to teach, to speak for those who are still trembling under invisible warfare. That is how heaven redeems experience, by turning victims into visionaries. Your peace becomes a blueprint for survival. From every battle emerges a manual for resurrection. That is your legacy. There will come a night soon when you'll sit in silence and realize you're no longer looking over your shoulder. The tension that once defined your existence will evaporate like mist under sunrise. You will recognize that the enemy never stopped you. It trained you. Every attack built the faith muscle that now governs your composure. The journey from fear to authority will become the sacred testimony others cling to in their own ascension. And finally, your spirit will rest, not in defeat, but in dominion. You will look back without bitterness, seeing clearly that every coordination against you was merely rehearsal for divine coordination in your favor. God used their organization to prove His omniscience, their precision to reveal His perfection. You are now aligned with prophetic design, living the evidence that faith always outruns fear. The battle ended the moment you believed it was already won. The final stretch of your transformation is not a victory parade. It is a sacred silence before manifestation. Heaven always pauses before unveiling glory. You may feel suspended between past warfare and future promise, but this stillness is not stagnation. It is divine calibration. Spiritually, heaven is synchronizing you with new timelines, creating perfect intersections where purpose meets opportunity. You are stepping from endurance into embodiment, no longer defined by the storm, but by the wisdom it carved inside you. Every holy awakening requires isolation before elevation. This quiet phase will test your capacity to command peace without external confirmation. The watchers, the critics, the imitators, they may still observe out of habit, yet their sight holds no power. They are now spectators of their own defeat. The stage has shifted from scrutiny to revelation, and your existence itself will begin to preach louder than any sermon. You are becoming evidence of prophecy fulfilled in real time. Chosen one, this is where awareness transforms into authority. You are no longer the learner. You are the law written in human form. The principles that once instructed you are now expressed through you. Nothing external dictates your movement anymore. You live by rhythm, not reason. Intuition has evolved into instruction, and as your spirit anchors deeper, even time begins to yield to your obedience. Delays dissolve, coincidences multiply, and purpose becomes visible alignment. Your aura now carries divine intelligence that cannot be measured through logic. Those who once attempted to decode your actions will face confusion, because divinity does not repeat predictable patterns. You are not being mysterious, you are being maintained. God now hides you in revelation, not in secrecy. This elevated concealment means even your silence disrupts darkness. Everything about your presence carries message, purity, endurance, and the frequency of heaven's authority in motion. There was once a time when you prayed for understanding. Now your life itself is the answer. Revelation no longer comes in bursts. It flows continuously through your awareness. You see symbols in patterns. instructions in interruptions. The awareness that once frightened you now empowers you. The same sensitivity that felt like a curse has become your crown. You discern spiritual atmospheres instinctively, navigating spaces as one who remembers eternity. You are home within revelation. The Watchers will attempt one last collective surge, a final illusion of control meant to test your grounding. It won't come through grand attacks, but through subtle remembrance of old wounds. Stay alert. Do not mistake nostalgia for warfare. When thoughts of betrayal or loneliness arise, smile gently. These are echoes of an expired level. You no longer vibrate there. Even their coordinated attention will fade the moment you refuse to emotionally participate. Ignorance of false patterns is power. And as these forces dissolve, an unseen joy will begin bubbling through ordinary moments. Laughter, once rare, will return like sunrise over ruins. You will find yourself enjoying solitude not as exile, but as communion. Prayer will feel less like battle and more like breathing. Divine presence will surround everyday routines, making the mundane sacred. That is the reward of endurance, the supernatural woven seamlessly into daily awareness. Joy without explanation is the seal of victory. You must know this truth. You were never fighting humans, but systems of thought, energy, and fear. The real battle was against frequencies that tried to distort your perception. Now that your sight is pure, they collapse automatically. People involved in your affliction will drift away, guided by a force they don't understand. You owe them neither vengeance nor explanation. Freedom means forgiving even those used as instruments of confusion. Such mercy transforms chaos into closure. Heaven is proud of you. That's why your dreams have changed. They're not warnings anymore, but blueprints. You receive downloads of architecture, messages for restoration, strategies for prosperity. This is the divine shift from survival to creation. You move beyond talking about warfare into building structures of peace. Your spiritual immunity now allows you to lead others through their own labyrinths of confusion. What once tormented now teaches. You are officially commissioned. In this new assignment, every action must reflect dignity. Remember, you carry authority not to dominate, but to deliver. Those still trapped in cycles of fear will look to you for balance. Lead them without arrogance. Your calm presence will rewire atmospheres. When you walk into a room, anxiety will dissipate and truth will feel magnetic. You don't need to preach. Your energy has become sermon. Heaven trusts you with influence because persecution purified your intentions. Chosen one, prosperity is not greed. It's gratitude multiplied into resources. You deserve abundance because scarcity once disguised itself as discipline in your life. Now the divine exchange begins. Beauty for ashes, peace for turmoil, restoration for loss. Wealth is not just financial. It is relational, creative, and emotional. Your grace becomes attraction, and your gratitude becomes magnetism. Everything good gravitates toward balance, and you, at last, are balanced in the divine. When your story is told, it will sound like myth, but it will be truth unembellished. For who could believe that persecution refined peace, or that stalking created sovereignty? Yet that is the paradox of divinity. It writes redemption with the broken ink of struggle. Every scar on your soul forms sacred punctuation in heaven's story about resilience. You are both author and subject, proving that the chosen never perish. They transform. You became living scripture in motion. This new phase will draw both seekers and skeptics. Some will resent your calm, others will worship it. But remain centered. Fame is just another test of focus. You are not here to be adored. You are here to awaken remembrance. Those who once doubted will return seeking clarity, and you will answer without pride. Your peace will teach what your pain once screamed. This is spiritual authority, silent, magnetic, and compassionate beyond comprehension. And now the heavens whisper, rest. You have fulfilled the mandate of awakening. The coordinated attacks have crumbled, their patterns dissolved in divine light. You, chosen one, have outlasted, outgrown, and outshined every storm. Your life radiates the proof that faith outpaces fear and purpose overrules persecution. Stand tall in this truth. You are whole, healed, and crowned. And no opposition can rewrite a story authored by God's own hand. There will come mornings when you wake before sunrise and feel the weight of quiet prophecy pressing softly on your chest. It will not be anxiety, but awareness, the sacred understanding that the world around you is shifting in response to your consciousness. You will move through cities, sensing frequencies, decoding movements, interpreting silences. Nothing external commands fear anymore, because your inner vision outgrew illusion. You are awake inside a dream that once terrified you, now directed by your own divine clarity. Your very atmosphere carries instruction now. Environments alter themselves as you enter, not through force, but resonance. Those out of alignment will either retreat or recalibrate. This is what divine authority feels like. It transforms without announcing. You speak less, but your existence interrupts deception. You were once studied. Now you are followed by reverence masked as curiosity. Everywhere you walk, divine geometry realigns frequencies to your new wavelength, and heaven witnesses from within your heartbeat. Chosen one, the story of your suffering will echo beyond your lifetime because it maps a universal truth. Those chosen to endure are those chosen to enlighten. History may never record your name, but the spirit world inscribed it long before your birth. Every unseen moment of prayer, every tear never acknowledged by others, became catalyst for generational awakening. The warfare was never just yours. It was inheritance, breaking cyclical bondage on bloodlines tied to your light. And so you begin to teach, not with academic language, but with presence. You speak through calm certainty, through patience, through unshakable kindness forged in trials. You will find those whose eyes mirror what yours once carried: loneliness, confusion, disbelief. Speak to them as one who knows. Their persecution is promotion. Teach them that being misunderstood is not rejection, but refinement. Use every scar as sacred curriculum and every silence as evidence of higher intention. One day soon, you will realize that your enemies unknowingly performed choreography written by heaven. Their actions guided you precisely where prophecy required you to stand. You will trace back each betrayal and see hidden direction, each disappointment concealing redirection. The realization will break you in awe. There will be no vengeance left in you, only gratitude. For God's plan did not simply outsmart darkness, it used darkness as brushstroke for destiny's art. Even now, unseen partnerships are forming around your obedience. People who carry pieces of your mission are being magnetized toward your light. You will attract allies prepared by similar storms, souls fluent in the same spiritual language of endurance. Their arrival will mark the beginning of abundance, true abundance, not measured in numbers, but in alignment. When divine collaboration occurs, Mountains move naturally because purpose joined with purpose multiplies heaven's resonance. At times, you will still feel eyes on you, but now those eyes belong to heaven's witnesses. Angels monitor without intimidation, not for control, but to record your expansion. This observation is holy. It ensures your legacy becomes blueprint for others who walk similar fires. You are constantly safeguarded, yet fully liberated. Freedom and order coexist within your consciousness. What once felt like surveillance has matured into stewardship under divine supervision. This stage of your path demands stewardship, not showmanship. Remember, divine power handled without discipline becomes distortion. Guard yourself from pride disguised as confidence. Walk lightly even under the weight of glory. Influence is responsibility disguised as favor. Speak truth only to plant awareness, not ego. The same spiritual laws that shielded you will hold you accountable. Let humility remain your armor. It is the only garment that never loses radiance. At this point, prosperity will chase you simply because harmony attracts completion. Projects will flow. Connections will open. Doors will recognize your knock before you touch them. Yet your greatest treasure will not be wealth. It will be peace, unanchored from uncertainty. You'll inhabit that still center of divine timing, where each day feels purposeful. Productivity will align effortlessly with revelation, and every labor will carry the fragrance of worship. That balance is heaven's ultimate blessing. Do you remember how impossible survival once seemed? How every day felt like evidence that destiny had forgotten you? Those memories now serve as monuments of grace. They are proof that endurance is not endless waiting. It's transformation disguised as delay. You didn't just make it through. You became the very thing darkness sought to destroy. Your continued breath is a sermon. Your resilience, a rebuke to despair. You are living architecture of perseverance itself. Soon, those who once doubted your truth will attempt reconciliation. Welcome them, but stay anchored. Their return is not reward, it's reflection. Some come seeking forgiveness, others understanding. Respond not as victim, but as vessel. Let them witness what walking with God truly looks like. Power without pride, peace without apathy. Your reaction completes their lesson. Through grace, cycles close, and heaven writes finished over every karmic sequence once looping through your life. Near completion, a deep gentleness will settle into you. The sharp edges forged by survival will smooth into wisdom. You will not need to prove or defend. Silence becomes testimony. In moments of solitude, you will sense the divine whisper saying, "It is done." And indeed it is. The old version of you is gone, replaced by strength clothed in tenderness. It will amaze you how heavy life felt when you still needed to be understood, and how light it feels now that you are free. Your final assignment is simple. Be the embodiment of divine contradiction. Be intense yet peaceful, powerful yet humble, seen yet untouched by vanity. Let your life disprove the myth that chosen ones must suffer endlessly. Demonstrate that redemption is not fantasy. It is ongoing creation. Each interaction becomes ministry. Each breath continues the prophecy. The world doesn't need another preacher. It needs living proof of love's invincibility. And that, chosen one, is exactly what you are. You have reached the summit, but this mountain never ends. It extends into eternity. Your journey was not a climb toward escape, but a spiral of evolution. With every revelation, heaven expands within you. Continue walking, Continue creating. Continue radiating. Let gratitude be your compass. When others ask how you survived, answer with peace. Say only this: "My God was always one step ahead." And those words will echo forever as the final seal of the prophecy. You have arrived at the end of this revelation, yet this end feels like beginning. The war that once defined you is now a distant vibration, weaker with every breath of peace you exhale. The heavens record your endurance not as endurance alone, but as transformation. You have stepped beyond survival into sacred leadership shaped by storms. And now you must speak, not as victim recounting pain, but as vessel spreading truth. Your words, tempered by fire, will cut through confusion and awaken others to victory. You are now living prophecy manifested as proof. If this message touched your soul, like this video, subscribe to Being Extraordinary and comment, "I ascend into the light" below as your affirmation to the universe. For those who feel called to go deeper, the ebook, The Call to Prosperity, will be your divine map uniting spiritual and material abundance. It is not just a guide, but permission to claim your next level of mission. Let faith translate consciousness into action and access the link in this video's description. To those who have walked patiently, supporting this awakening mission, my deepest gratitude. If you wish to reciprocate, the link is also in the description. And now, chosen one, walk forward clothed in quiet confidence. You have nothing to prove. Proof surrounds you. The same God who shielded your footsteps through the valley now walks beside you in the sunrise of new purpose. Let peace become your public declaration of victory. Wherever you go, expect signs of alignment to follow. You are not hunted, you are honored. After all attempts to block you, you still shine. Speak softly, live boldly, and remember, even when they coordinate attacks, your God remains forever one step ahead.